How about a stock that has spent a lot of time in the doghouse of late? And I'm talking about Starbucks, where a lot of people just felt, you know what? I guess that was a great company at one time. Well, it's back. It's rallying this morning. Investors are shrugging off the coffee chain's losses, which have been substantial, okay? And they're thinking about the future. Why? Because Kevin Johnson actually laid out a course of the future that I thought was incredibly strong. First on CNBC, Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson. Kevin, you did it. Good work.
Well, Jim, David, Carl, good morning. How are you guys?
Couldn't be better. And what I love, why? Because I love the fact that you have come up with a strategy, a COVID strategy that will transcend and even after COVID, and whether it be curbside or what I think you should talk about, which is very exciting, the new, I'm going to call them Starbucks Express. There are so many open storefronts in this country. You've got a balance sheet. You can put stores where you do not have to worry about social distancing because the line moves. And I think you should talk about the new way that retail can work in an era where crowds are an anathema.
Well, Jim, certainly this last 4 months has been a very dynamic period. You know, and if you recall back in March when we were working to close our stores and provide economic certainty for our partners and take care of the frontline healthcare workers, we put people over profit. And so certainly we think that was a very, very important thing to do because it reinforced our mission and values and it built trust. It really helped strengthen the long-term brand attributes that Starbucks stands for. Certainly as we reopen stores, we now have operationalized the store protocols and the way that we can run these stores, the digital dashboard that helps our store managers around the world. So clearly, we now are in a position where we can navigate anything that this global pandemic will do around the world. What you're pointing to is we've accelerated some strategic initiatives that really future-proof the company. And when you look at disruptions, you know, I spent 32 years in the tech industry, and whenever there's a technology disruption, it is those companies that recognize the disruption, invest in ways that further differentiate their brand, their offerings, their services, that are the big winners. Those that fail to do that are left behind. And so that's exactly what we've done. We've looked at what COVID-19 has created in terms of a disruption in consumer behavior and figured out how to accelerate strategic initiatives that we already had in our strategy, but we're accelerating those to really position Starbucks to better serve customers, not only in the COVID-19 world, but beyond. And so what you're highlighting are these stores. The fact that, you know, we see today that our drive-through stores in suburban markets are performing extremely well. Why? Customers want experiences that are safe, familiar, and convenient. So you think about in urban core markets, how do we do that? We have traditional Starbucks stores today. We are now building these Starbucks pickup stores. In China, we call them Starbucks Now. So you think of these are the equivalent of a walk-through store. You think about it's a much smaller footprint. It's all geared towards mobile ordering and a very convenient service. Now, these Starbucks pickup stores typically will be located within 3 to 5 minute walk of a traditional Starbucks store. So if you as a customer want to go share your coffee and food and have a sit down with a business colleague or a family member or friend, you can walk to a regular Starbucks store and sit in a cafe. If, though, you're on the go and you want to pick up your coffee on the way to work or on the way to school, these Starbucks pickup stores are going to be for you. So it's blending those store formats to really create a network effect in these urban core markets. And so that's where we're going.
Now, I think a lot of people look at a number, particularly people who are not familiar with the company. America's comparable store sales declined 41%. And they say, well, this is just crazy that the stock's up $3.70. But there is a thing called cadence, and the cadence was extraordinary. June good, but I think you got to tell people what happened in July, because I think July is an harbinger of what can happen for the rest of the year.
Well, you know, certainly as we monitor this, we look at same-store comps, and you know, across both our two lead growth markets, the U.S. and China, we saw our comparable store sales improve again from the month of June to July. In fact, you know, we finished the month of June in the U.S. at a minus 19% comp. And in the month of July, we gained 5 more points in comp. So we finished July in minus 14% comp in the U.S. But the most important thing, Jim, is I look at the leading indicators. And so there's 3 things that I look at. Number one, I look at our customer connection scores, and they are at an all-time high. And that's a signal that what we've done with our store protocols is resonating with our customers. And the digital reach that we have is now bringing those customers back into our stores. So that momentum is continuing. I also look at the brand affinity scores. This is how customers perceive Starbucks, and is Starbucks top of mind. And certainly those brand affinity scores have strengthened as we have come out of reopening stores and in this period. And then finally, when I look at our market share numbers, certainly in the month of April, when we had all our stores closed, I kind of ignore that month because when you're closed, you're not going to gain a lot of share. In the month of May, our market share was flat. But then when we hit the month of June, that market share is taking off. So customer connection scores strong, brand affinity strong, market share gains in the month of June. And so, look, we have now woven into our operating cadence how to navigate this global pandemic in every market around the world. The recovery is working, and we are now accelerating initiatives to future-proof the company.
Kevin, speaking about markets around the world, I want to focus on China, where you are largely entirely open. In fact, I think you opened 100 new stores in the country during the course of the quarter. What have you learned from China in terms of dealing with the virus and obviously the reopening there that you can then transport back to the United States?
Well, David, as you point out, this virus started to spread in China long before it came to the United States and other markets around the world. So back in January, as we began really focusing on supporting Belinda Wong and Leo and our team in China, we learned the store protocols that allowed us to open our stores in ways that were safe for our Starbucks partners and safe for our customers. Now, those store protocols that were created in China were then imported to the U.S. and adapted for the U.S. and adapted for other markets. So all the store protocols that we're using, were originally created in China, and now we've adapted them in other markets around the world. In addition, the key thing we've learned in China is that once you reopen, you have to monitor the situation of spread of COVID in every city across the country. And then if you see that there's a resurgence of cases, of COVID cases, you're able to, in that city, carefully turn the dial back, basically constrain some of the customer experiences to help support government and health officials as they work to contain it. That learning translated into a digital dashboard that we now have in place that uses some of the artificial intelligence software we have that we call Deep Brew, that helps inform our store managers what's happening with COVID, what are customer preferences in that particular market, and what are we seeing with partner sentiment. That helps inform them what store protocols to use. So a lot of what we've done in China, we have now operationalized in the United States and around the world.
Hey, Kevin, you got a lot of investors tracking high-frequency data that is not seasonally adjusted, very volatile, things like Chase card spending and OpenTable and Google Mobility, which do suggest that we've at least stabilized, flattened, maybe come down a bit. Is that being reflected in anything you're seeing in July?
Well, look, this, the recovery process, the plans that we have in place, they're working, Carl, and we continue to execute against those. Now, look, until there's a vaccine and more therapeutics, we're all going to live in this world with COVID, and we all have to be mindful of that. So the journey won't be linear, but I'm very optimistic that, as a company, we have really operationalized how we're going to deal with this, and it's working. And so, we're continuing to monitor. It's different in different parts of the world. There was a resurgence of cases in Beijing, and the government, really was cautious. They tested everyone. We dialed back in those stores. And now China's, Beijing and China's back on the front foot. You look at, what's happening in Florida, Texas, being cautious there. So this is just the world we live in. But, we're able to now do that. And I believe we're going to keep driving this recovery. I have full confidence in my Starbucks partners. I have full confidence in how we put this together. And in addition, I'm pretty enthusiastic about the future. I'm enthusiastic about these strategic initiatives that, Jim highlighted at the top of this call is, we are really now embracing some new ways to blend new store formats, to really leverage digital, and continue to drive beverage and food innovation that's relevant to our customers. And that's going to serve us well for the long term.
Kevin, I wanted to come back to China briefly. it can't escape your attention, of course, the deterioration in relationship between the U.S. and China. How worrisome is that for you from a business perspective? And is there a break the glass plan at Starbucks? Should we embark on a new Cold War with China?
Well, David, we've been in China now over 20 years. And ever since we entered China, we've really had the mindset that we are building Starbucks in China for China. And what that means is our team in China is completely self-sufficient. We have the people in China that run the real estate, that design the stores, that invent the food and beverage, that operate the stores. We hire local Chinese craftsmen that build our stores, artisans that come and create these great stores. And we continue to invest in China. And I think because we are in China and we've done this in a way that's respectful to the culture and we value the relationships that we have in China, I feel like we're going to navigate this just fine. But, certainly we think about the range of alternatives. But right now, I think, our business is healthy. We just crossed 4,400 stores. I think we've said, look, this fiscal year alone, we're building over 500 new stores in China, net new stores. And so we're going to continue to grow. We just announced a couple months ago a $130 million investment in a global roasting plant in China. And certainly that's there to serve Asia, but also serve the world in terms of roasting coffee for Starbucks. And so I'm bullish in terms of China for the long term, but I also recognize the geopolitical situation is a bit tense. And, we're going to stay focused on what we do and what we do well. And that's handcrafted beverages and taking care of our customers and being respectful and creating that warm, welcoming environment in our stores. And I think that will serve us well.
All right. So, Kevin, I hate to truncate you, but I do need a quick one on this. July 15th, you said that customers are required to wear masks. I'm a big believer in masks. We talk a lot, and I've got a contest going on for masks. Was there an acceleration in business when you told people, listen, let's get some masks on? Because people no longer feel like when you get a triple venti cappuccino with skim wet, you're taking your life in your hands.
Well, Jim, when we reopened stores, we required all Starbucks partners to wear masks in reopening. Why? Because we know it works. We know that wearing masks helps reduce the spread of the virus. We know that washing hands helps reduce the spread of the virus. We know that social distancing helps reduce the spread of the virus. So we built that into all of our safety protocols. And when we first reopened stores, we respectfully requested that customers wear a mask. And certainly, many of them did. But as we saw, the importance of wearing masks, more and more states were mandating, it just made sense to do that across the country. And I think that gives great confidence, not only in our Starbucks partners, but the customers we serve, that this is a safe, familiar, and convenient experience. And you can come to Starbucks and you can, enjoy your favorite handcrafted beverage, your favorite food item, and feel safe. And so I think this has been a very positive step, not only for Starbucks, but for the country and for society. And I think, like you, I believe that, this is something we can all do as citizens. It's something we can do as businesses. And so we have a responsibility to do that, to care for ourselves and care for others in our country.
Amen. Kevin Johnson, stock up nicely. Congratulations. CEO of Starbucks.